Hello again. In this session, we'll be revealing the essential components for nurturing a thriving and inclusive tech community. We'll decode the art of uniting employers and employee while emphasizing inclusivity, diversity, and accessibility. Explore the exciting journey of aligning employer expectations with the aspirations of Gen Z, and delve into the dynamic realm of the employer and employee value proposition, where diversity and accessibility are paramount. Join us in discovering how the real challenge goes beyond mere skills, focusing on cultivating an inclusive wage ecosystem that not only magnetises but retains top talent. Be part of the equation that's crafting a future where everyone's unique strengths contribute to a harmonious tech landscape here in Wales. Chairing this discussion is Dr. Tony Bradshaw, Managing Director of Biosocius. Biosocius is focused on understanding and developing the contribution different personalities make in innovative teams, primarily in the biotechnology sector. Please welcome Tony to the stage.
I think I meant to sit down, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stand up. I feel much more comfortable doing that. And I was going to introduce everyone, but I thought I'll get them to introduce themselves. And Sophie specifically said she can't go first. Is that true?
Go on. I'll go first. Why not?
Sophie, could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sophie, Sophie Mason, and I am an entrepreneur. I have started Thinkedy, which stands for Think EDI, Think Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. With a very small female-led team, we have built an app for organisations that is going to absolutely pioneer the EDI space and save billions of pounds for organisations. Yes, that's pretty much me.
Thank you, Sophie. Jade?
Hi, I'm Jade. I used to be a chef, now I'm a digital growth executive. I don't know what it means either, but it's a lot of fun. I'm really happy to be here today to be talking to you all about the three big words, letters, EDI. I'm sure you've all filled out a survey for EDI. Hopefully this will be slightly more interesting than that.
Okay, Gemma.
Yeah, I'm Gemma. I'm a senior UX designer, and I primarily focus on inclusion and accessible design, mainly because my background, I do have dyslexia, so I really push that in my work to make sure it's as accessible as possible.
Did everyone hear Gemma there? She seemed a bit quieter.
Am I quiet? Is it not on? Oh, cool.
We'll ask Gemma to do that again.
I can do it again.
Excellent.
Does anyone have any music we can play? Some elevator style?
We'll wait a second. We've just been in a green room. I don't know whether you know that. Well, we've put in a room. I imagine it's a bit like being on TV or something. And I've learned so much already just chatting to these three people. So I thought I've ticked all my boxes here. But Gemma, why don't you just reintroduce yourself? And
Okay.
you've got to say
I think that's
exactly
my
the
mic.
same.
Is that my mic giving feedback? No? Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm Gemma. I'm a senior UX designer and I work for Box UK. And I primarily focus on inclusive design and accessibility. They're a big driving factor for myself. And that's mainly because I do have dyslexia. So I do try and push inclusive design and accessibility as much as possible.
I agreed to chair this because I do a lot of work on personalities in R&D teams in biotechnology, and I'm constantly coming across situations now where we need to look at diversity in a much broader sense than I do, which is predominantly around making sure we have lots of cultures within the team. It obviously is affected by political stuff that's been going on, but also the personalities, and how do we get the best out of the personalities? But in the last 2 weeks, I've been coaching probably 10 people, 4 of them were neurodiverse, and this is all happening much and much more often for me. So what we've done is we've just thought through a few questions to ask the panel, but please, if you want to interfere and put your hand up and ask a question, we'll take that towards the end. So the first question we're going to ask, and we're not asking you first, Sophie, is what is your experience of diversity and inclusion in the tech workspace? So I'm looking at you, Gemma. Do you mind going first on that?
Yeah, I would say when I first entered the tech industry about 10 years ago, I was a little bit worried, being a woman, obviously. But I thought that it was really welcoming to begin with. And I've worked with like loads of different companies, and I've worked with predominantly men as well, and I've never found an issue. But I think I was always really worried to talk about or mention dyslexia. So I kind of held that back a few times. And the reason why I didn't want to bring it up was because my school experience, and sure as many others would have experienced it, is that they don't really look at dyslexia in a way of all the good things that comes with it. They tend to just look at all the negative things that come with it. So poor time management, or not being able to do like the simple task of copying text from a board into a bit of paper. So I was always told that I was lazy. So I thought, well, when I'm going into like an employment, I don't want to be seen as lazy. So I didn't want to bring up dyslexia because I automatically assumed that people would just think I'm lazy, but I'm not. I'm not lazy. I'm so much different than actual lazy. So yeah, it took me a while to talk about that. And then I think one day actually is when I started working at Box. I worked at Box twice, I come back. And my first time at Box, I did actually disclose the fact that I have dyslexia. And that was the first time that somebody saw me as somebody who wasn't just a lazy person. It was more seen as, oh, okay, what do you need? And that was, nobody ever asked me that question before, of like, what can we do? What can we do to help you? And ever since then, I've been like, okay, I'm gonna talk about this a bit more and be a bit more open. And then that pushed me to do some other things outside of my job role. So I have a YouTube channel and an Instagram where I talk about dyslexia and just inclusion design in general. And I was always really scared to do that because I thought, well, people would just assume that I'm stupid because I can't write tidy. But now I just embrace it. And I make a joke of it on my Instagram. It literally says, I think something along the lines of spelling mistakes by dyslexia or something like that, just to like bring awareness to it and just a laugh and a joke.
Interesting. Okay. Jade, what about you?
So yeah, before I get onto my point, this is obviously an EDI panel. I hope that, you will get a lot out of this. This is an all-white EDI panel due to circumstances. So I hope that all of you who are white can sort of go off after this and listen to non-white voices in this space, because it's important, and hopefully next year you can have a more well-rounded panel. I'll start talking about myself now. So for me, transgender, bipolar, but I think the biggest barrier to work for me was coming from the catering industry. And that's an industry that can instill a lot of bad habits into you and can instill a lot of fear and trauma into you, as due to a lot of different circumstances. So I think for me, my experience of diversity in the workplace, where I felt most different to the people that I work around, where I felt most like I'm an outsider, is the fact that I haven't come from a degree. I haven't come from a sort of, I guess, sophisticated background in terms of my education and in terms of the work I've done. And that has been a real sticking point for me, and a way that I feel like I've really been different to everyone else. But it's also been a massive blessing. I think I learned skills in that environment of kitchens that I would probably have taken me 10 years to learn in tech. Those project management skills, those people skills, that ability to react under pressure, that ability to be flexible, to be someone that, is able to adapt to any kind of situation. And I think what feels important to me is, if you're an employer in the tech space and you're looking for someone to know Postgres, AWS, and Redis, and they need to know Azure as well, and they also need to know a language that came out last year, but they need to have 10 years experience in it, you're really going to lose out on people that have these softer skills that can learn on the job, that are very talented. You can train them, right? You can train someone really easily. People will listen. People want to learn. It's hard to instill those instincts into people that you get from working in certain environments. And so if you're overlooking those people because they don't know the latest tech stack, or they don't know about AI or whatever the new buzzword is, you know, you're going to miss out on some of your best employees. Not to say I'm one of Youngo's best employees, but I am. That's a joke. That's a joke to anyone from Youngo watching.
Thanks, Jade. Sophie?
Yeah, so, I mean, inclusion and diversity. So I think, you know, we have to separate those. What is diversity? And very rightly, as Jade mentioned, this panel is somewhat representative of diversity, but not as much as we would have liked it to be, especially when it comes to ethnic minority groups. But the importance of diversity in our workplaces, you know, we know that organizations who have a diverse senior management team are 2.5 times more productive in the workplace. And equally, when it comes to inclusion, we know that the UK economy is spending 127 billion on discrimination claims by not being inclusive. So we need to increase diversity and increase inclusion, but we need to do it at the same time. And I think that's the important thing, because if we just focus on diversity and we don't have those workplaces and that good culture to really support people with those protected characteristics, we're going to lose them. And we're going to lose the talent and the expertise that they bring. But equally, if we just focus on inclusion, well, it's, you know, as we said, we need those diverse teams.
Okay. Well, what we'll do, let's just move on to another question. We'll come back to any questions from the audience right at the end. How do you feel that technology can enhance inclusion and diversity? And it's unfair to start with you again, Gemma. Jade, I mean, would you like to start on that?
I think the applications for technology in justice and bridging the gap between people who are able and neurotypical and fit the mold of society is unprecedented. I don't think we've ever had so much potential to remove barriers. I think one of the things we can do is start asking ourselves, when new technology comes out, how it can benefit the rest of society. So there's this idea, right? It's called the curb cut effect. I don't know if anyone knows it, but you know the cuts in the curb where people can, you know, it's got the little bumps in it, so blind people know, and so people who have mobility issues can use it. But it helps everyone, right? If you're a cyclist, they're such a blessing. If you're a logistics person who needs to move packages around, they're such a blessing, right? When we usually fix things for one area of society, it tends to have a sort of sprawling effect on everyone else. Everyone can jump on that. So when we get new technology that comes out, let's not ask if it can replace artists and singers. Let's look at how it can replace the more demeaning things in society, the places where people are underrepresented. Let's look at how new technology can actually help those people, because at the moment it kind of feels like it's all a bit backwards. Like something new comes out and we go, oh great, this is going to mean that I can be a painter. Pick up a paintbrush, okay? And help some other people. For myself, personally, I thrive in an office environment. I love being in an office environment. I'm a huge extrovert. For other people, it can be really detrimental, that idea. So we also need to learn to be asynchronous. We need to learn to let people work in their own way, in their own time, to give them the space as individuals, to work with people on a one-to-one level. If you can't work with people on a one-to-one level, why? Why can't you do that? Why is your management capacity so poor that people are getting sort of left behind in the dust? Why aren't you understanding each of your employees' needs? Or why doesn't someone in your company with some level of influence understand each and every employee's needs on a personal level and be willing to work around that? Okay, so for some companies, working in the office is really great. For others, it's not great. If you're mandating, though, that everyone has to come work in the office, you're forcing people into an environment that could actually be detrimental to the work and the value they can add to your company. So you're shooting yourself in the foot based on some... Anyway. Or I go off on a rant.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And Sophie?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just to take over really from what Jade was saying, I mean, exactly what you were explaining right there is discrimination, and it's failure to make reasonable adjustments. And again, it's really, so let me start from the beginning. I'm here today because of technology. I am able to physically be here because I have an electric wheelchair. How cool is this? Without this, I would be exhausted on day one, and I would not have made it. So technology can really help us with inclusion. Equally, technology can be a barrier. For example, the physical barrier of, you know, the car parks where you get the actual barriers that raise to let you out. Well, I got stuck behind one of those earlier because there were no accessible pavements in the car park. And I had to limbo underneath the barrier, which I found quite amusing. I mean, you have to have a sense of humor about these things. So I got some good limbo practice this morning. But technology can be a barrier if we're not building inclusion into it and considering things from those different angles right from the beginning. And for myself, you know, I've experienced this as an individual with disabilities. And also, you know, I'm bisexual, but I'm married to a man, and a lot of people wouldn't assume that. And it's what we don't know about people and the assumptions and that unconscious bias that's in society that can really have a detrimental effect on people's mental health, which then, again, from a business point of view, impacts your culture and your productivity if, you know, they're your goals. So on my journey through life, I remember coming into my career, early career, and just feeling like, why is this not sorted? Why am I facing so many barriers? And the depression that chronic depression that I experienced because of this. And then as I somehow pushed myself further to progress through my career, I became a line manager. And then I realized it is not that easy to manage a team of diverse people and be inclusive. And so actually, a little bit of a plug for me, but this is why I have created Thinkady, because I've waited 10 years for someone to create a digital process to manage that, to basically block those gaps that people like myself are always falling into. For example, many organizations booking end of the week meetings on a Friday afternoon, not realizing that you're choosing to have a meeting during a very common prayer time for all of your Muslim employees. And what message are you sending to your employees by doing that? But if you don't know, you don't know. So we need a tool that line managers can use, that employees can use, that just is technology and makes that easier. So I've gone ahead and created it. So technology is brilliant.
That sounds really good. I'm looking forward to talking more about that. But Gemma, do you want to add?
How do I follow that?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so somebody who's just become a new mother, well, been about a year now, so my life has changed a lot, okay? And working from home has really excelled and helped me, you know, with the run to nursery in the mornings, getting back in time for work, making sure stuff around the house is done, and just doing my day-to-day job. That's been amazing. Now, if you spoke to me, I'd say 5 years ago, I would have been against working from home. I was very much an office person because I love people. And I was always frightened of working from home because I was so conditioned to be in the office, in that office environment. But I noticed the more you start to learn about yourself and learn about different people and learning that it's not a one-size-fits-all type of thing, then you start to cater to other people's advantages. And when somebody feels secure and they know they can achieve what they want to achieve, they will excel. And I think that's the best way to put it, is if you put them in an environment that they will excel, whether that's working from home or working in an office or allowing them to work in a coffee shop, allowing them to work from a different country, and having that flexibility, especially with childcare. If any of you have children, you know what it's like with the nursery and they have to be sent home. Is working around those type of things as well. So understanding that people are people and not, just somebody who makes the business money. Obviously, that is what we do. But if you just cater for them as an actual person, they will excel a lot more. And when it comes to technology, obviously I work in the space which is a lot of tech. And like I said, I have dyslexia, so I use a lot of technology to my advantage. So ChatGPT, the big buzzword that's been around lately. A lot of people, especially in my industry, freaked out and thought, oh my God, we're going to replace designers, we're going to replace everyone. But I thought, I can use this tool to my advantage. And I do. So emails for me are really time consuming. They're not hard. they're just time consuming. It takes me a while to make sure I'm using the right word, make sure I'm using the right format, make sure it's presented in a way where I'm being clear to what I say. So now I will go to ChatGPT, write as I would speak actually, and then ask ChatGPT to rewrite my email for me. So that's technology that I've used to my advantage, which saves me time, is really efficient for the company because like the email is sent and I'm not sat there now thinking, is this the right word? Have I done this the right way? It's just, nope, I'm done. I can send it off, use tech to my advantage. And I think that's something that companies need to embrace, is to not be scared of these type of technologies and kind of like embrace them in a different way, to not be like, oh, we're just going to replace all our copywriters now with ChatGPT. It's like, no, what can we actually do to use this technology to our advantage?
Okay, thank you. There's a few early career people in the audience today, and so I was just thinking, what's the one thing that you wish you'd known when you started your career? And I've started with you two already, so Sophie, you're on first.
I think to ask for adjustments. There's a big stigma around asking for help, especially I think in British society, and we're all very polite and we don't want to be seen to ask for help. But actually, that one thing that you really need can be so easy for someone else to implement, and it can have such a huge impact on your ability to do your job, but also your stress and your work-life balance, because we take these things home. And that itself can then have an impact on your career and your ability to progress. So do ask for what you need. And if you're not sure what you need, ask someone to talk it through with you and see what's possible.
Okay.
And
Jade.
I was just going to say, and if you're in an environment where if you're in an environment where you don't feel like you can ask for help, it's probably a good idea to ask yourself why you're in that environment and if there's somewhere else that you could be.
Yeah.
Gemma?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest misconceptions is that we have to cater for other people, and like it's like seen as another task. But realistically, when you put diversity and inclusion on the line, is if you're catering to a subset, you're actually catering to everyone else. Like JJ was saying about the dip curb and all that type of stuff, and it's the same with when you go and catch a train, the little dibbles, so people know it, like that's the edge of the track and things like that. And speaking from a dyslexia point of view, if you bullet point stuff for me, or bullet point something for somebody with dyslexia, we will be able to do that task relatively quickly because we haven't got to like go through a big list of stuff to do. It's just like, here's your tasks, go do it. Now that will help anyone else out, right? Anyone will benefit from just a few bullet points than what it would be to be like, go read that report and figure that out. It's like, nope, here's your task, go do it. And it's another thing that really helps as well as things like color coding. So for me, if you highlighted something in red, like to me, that's like an urgent thing to do. So my eye will go straight to the red and be like, okay, that's the first thing I'm gonna tick off today. Again, that would help anyone else out within an email. So by catering for diverse audience, you're catering for everyone else and everyone benefits. So just don't look at it as we have to make an adjustment for this person. It's like, no, we make the adjustment for everyone.
It was interesting when we were in the groom room talking about wearing headphones and things, which in a laboratory environment, you think someone's just trying to not collaborate, just keep them themselves. But it was really interesting, your perspective on that. Yeah,
a lot of people with who are neurodivergent, they have sensory issues. So, things are too loud for them, or, like the feeling of something is too much and it overloads their sensories. So a lot of people like to wear headphones. Now, this has been seen as they're not paying attention or they're just listening to music, they're not actually doing their work, but it actually helps them. So most of the time people are not listening to music, they have like some sort of sound on in the background to drown out the office environment because it's too overpowering for them. Especially if you have an open environment where you have people over there doing sales calls, you have people over there doing something else, everyone's chatting, it's really overwhelming. So allowing somebody to put headphones in to drown that out really helps. Or, having like a quiet room or like kind of different environments like that. But again, like Tony says, sometimes it's seen as, that person doesn't want to be collaborative, and it's not. You can just make another reasonable adjustment of everyone gets to wear headphones if they want to, And then you can have something on your desk, like a little flag to be like, I'm deep in thought, so please don't bother me. Or I'm open for conversation, just give me a nudge. And we do this in our company. So we use Slack to communicate. And loads of times on Slack, I've seen somebody have a little emoji with a big focus in their status to say like, you know, I'm online, I'm doing something else, drop me a message and I'll get back to you later. So you're not interrupting them, but they're telling you, I just need some time to focus. And like I said, it's just a reasonable adjustment that you can do, whether that's offline or like in person. There's just slight little things that we can do to help everyone else out.
I just want to dovetail off the back of that with, wow, that was a deep voice that came up there. I don't have one of those. I just want to dovetail off the back of that with what I wish I knew, starting my career. I wish I knew that my career when I started wasn't actually my whole lifeline. Like, I didn't do well in school at all. I did badly at GCSEs. I did badly at A-levels for a huge variety of different reasons. There are organisations out there that have helped me massively. Working Wales, the Prince's Trust, they were right there. They didn't ask me what GCSEs I had. They didn't ask me what A-levels I had. Youngo Solutions, of course, the best training provider in Wales. But I wish I'd known that there were options out there for people like me, that I didn't just have to be in a kitchen or in a factory or any other of the huge amount of sort of dead-end jobs that I've done. I wish I knew that, you know, sort of 6 years before I engaged with these organisations that they exist. We often only show people in school the university route. Do you know about apprenticeships? Oh my God, they're amazing, right? Degree apprenticeships, non-degree apprenticeships, 2 years, getting paid enough money, like learning a new skill. You don't have to be in uni, you can do work at the same time. Like, there are these things out there that can really help social mobility, apprenticeships, and people just don't know about them. They don't know how to engage with them, and it's a really complicated process. And as an employer, I would really suggest educating yourself in apprenticeships, but I would also suggest just educating yourself in all these different routes, educating yourself in all these different places that people can come from before they end up before you, because gaps in resumes, right? What's that all about? Does it matter? You know, you never know what someone did or had to do, but they've still got all those skills, and they're still a human who can learn from you. You're the founder. You're the manager. You're the one supposed to have the skills. You're the one supposed to be transferring those skills. Transfer those skills.
If I could just jump in on the back of that as well. Sorry, Tony. I know you're eager to get back in. And, you know, what you mentioned about the way that society and education is really built to make us think about academia rather than understanding our vocational abilities. It just makes me think as well, school very much teaches us that a working day is, you know, it's 6 hours long, and then we come to work and it's an 8-hour working day. I'm autistic. I do my best work in about 2 hours of absolute hyper-focus, like you were mentioning, Gemma. And yes, I need that time to focus. But in many of my careers, I've actually ended up doing too much, to the point where other people have told me they're intimidated by me and they need me to stop doing too much, because I felt like I needed to fill those 8 hours with the hyper-focus that I was putting into 2 hours. And I've learned, no, that's just how I work. Work really hard for 2 hours and actually then do all of those smaller, softer things. So just consider outside of the box all the time. People are different. What works for you might not work for someone else. And what society has been telling us through all of our education isn't a model that we have to copy.
Thank you. We've got some real champions here. This is amazing. I just wondered in the audience, has anyone got any comments or questions? We've got a question over there. Shall we wait for a microphone to get over there? You don't need to run, we're okay. Okay. Do you want to say who you are?
Currently a job seeker. Oh, that's working.
That's better.
Do I need to repeat?
I would like, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm looking for a job at the moment. I've been out of work for 7 months. I'm kind of struggling around EDI stuff in a way. So in my career so far, I've had a lot of accommodations, and they're absolutely non-negotiable for me. But I'm wondering, how do I approach that in the job search, speaking to employers, like interviewing and so on, because I think I'm running into a wall with that. So yeah, if you have any comments or advice.
Well, thank you for asking. It looks like...
No, I was looking at Sophie.
Oh, right.
Sophie's the expert
Sophie,
on...
any thoughts?
So, I mean, the first thing I would think of is disability confident employers. If you have any kind of disability, you are guaranteed an interview as long as you meet that minimum criteria. And if you know that someone is a disability confident employer, as someone with autism, I've learned that you can ask for the questions up front. And that is fair. You can talk about what you need prior to even turning up to interview. And I do empathize with you, because I have been on that journey before as well, and I know how difficult it is. I think just don't give up, please. You will find the right employer who will put that support in place. I know the trauma of not having needs met and being turned down because of the stigma and the bias that's out there. Don't let it stop you. And actually the resilience that I think you get from going through the hardship, which we shouldn't have to go through, it's going to help you in your career, and it's also going to help you be able to empathize with the people that you will line manage in the future and be able to help them and grow business culture from that sense as well.
That question could take another half an hour. I mean, it's such a good question. I know Gemma would have something to say, and perhaps offline you could have a chat. But there's another question over there. So if you don't mind, we'll just move on to another question.
Ms. Johnson. Okay, and insightful comments and contributions, all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is this, right? When I'm jobs, I understand from my personal that the talent.
It's very difficult to hear with the microphone.
Oh.
You heard that.
All right. So, sorry. Okay, is it better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So I was saying that when looking out for opportunities, from my personal experience, right, I know that the talent pool is very large compared to the number of opportunities out there. Now, looking at the demography of people that are here, I think the people that are supposed to be listening to what you have to say are not even here. They are the employers, right? They are the ones that should listen to things like this. Because when you start asking for accommodations or exceptions or adjustments, then you are immediately looked upon as probably being difficult, sometimes being lazy, sometimes being, it just strikes a kind of red flag. So my question would be to Sophie, yeah, how are you putting this, that's your organization, right? How are you putting this in front of employers that need to hear these things? Because we cannot emphasize it enough, right? People have families, people need some form of adjustment, people have some form of one or two inadequacies that they would wish they didn't have, right? So how are you doing that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's a great question. And again, we could have a whole talk on that. And I think, just my personal pitch, but I really think that we should have an EDI stage next year, because this isn't a half an hour conversation. This is 3 days of a conversation, clearly. So, my gosh, where to start? Again, where to start? So, like you said, we're talking to people in this room who probably already have some kind of goals for EDI, probably in this room, most likely because they've somehow been experienced something due to a protected characteristic or someone close to them, or they're very passionate about that. We do need to get people into this room who have never considered that before. So things like allyship programs in organization and training on unconscious bias, and it can't just be that tokenistic one-off training that we do at the beginning in an onboarding session where we click through very quickly. It has to be really meaningful, and there has to be a way to check and audit that that is actually being used. I spoke to an organization earlier who discussed that they give unconscious bias training to anybody in their organization who is facilitating an interview. And I thought, that absolutely needs to happen. Again, talking about technology, there's some amazing technology companies here who are discussing virtual reality in the interview space and how we could use that with avatars to remove unconscious bias potentially. Again, it's something that's being grown, but it could be so interesting and amazing if that were to happen. But we do just need, as well, anybody who has experienced what we have experienced to speak up and talk at events like this and start sharing knowledge, and to, for all those in the audience, to bring along as many people as you can and say, you have no choice, you're coming along and you must listen to this because you will learn from it. Yeah.
The thing that got me through, just really quickly, I'd be 1 minute, I promise. The thing that got me through some of the most harrowing, I guess, years of my life in terms of employment, in terms of being unemployed, universal credit, just and all the guilt that comes with that, and the judgment from yourself, and that you feel that everyone else is giving you. Rejection really is protection in this space, right? If someone's rejecting you because they can't meet your needs, that sucks. It's horrible. I'm so glad you didn't get the job there, because going in there and getting the job there and then them turning around in 6 weeks and being like, nope, we can't do that, and losing a job, that's so much worse. I remember I went for a job just before I got my job at Yungo Solutions. I was sick of it. I couldn't be on universal credit for a day longer. So I went to a pub. I said, I'm a chef. I said I can cook for them. I didn't get the job. Oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't get that job, because then I got my job at Yungo. So rejection is protection.
Okay, well, we're going to bring this to a close. I really liked Sophie's idea that you'll have to talk to the organisers. Half an hour is not enough in this area. There's masses of expertise in this area, I would have thought, in this room, and it would have been nice to engage all that. So perhaps that's the thing, is to see if there's a way of building the agenda for next year. I'd like to thank the panellists. I mean, I've learned masses from this. So thank you very much, Sophie, Gemma and Jade, and I hope you felt it's been a worthwhile half hour of your life. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tony. Something tells me you're going to be very busy, Sophie. Thank you to Tony and his panelists. Our next session will be at 3:15 on how to ignite your inner entrepreneur. So let's turn your dreams into reality in our next session. So see you hopefully at 3:15.